Right, everyone, it's just gone 2 o'clock here in the UK, so we'll get going. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for our 1 hour webinar on improving your clean room cleaning and disinfection processes. My name is Christopher, and I'm the Group Sales Manager for AB Scientific and AB Molecular. For those of you who don't know who we are, we were formed in 2014 and supply products to the UK and Ireland from our offices in London and also in Dublin. Our industrial division specialises in products for use in cleanroom contamination control, as well as also environmental monitoring. I'm very delighted to welcome Ying Zhang today, who will be presenting for us. Before we begin, I'd just like to run through some housekeeping before the webinar. The webinar itself is being recorded and will be available to watch again from our website in the next few days. For the benefit of viewers, could everyone please mute their microphones? If you do wish to ask a question, then please feel free to pop this into the chat box at any time. The chat box can be accessed from the speech bubble at the top of your computer screen, or at the bottom if you're viewing through a browser. If you are on your phone, there will be an option to access the chat function using the app on Android or on your iPhone. To improve the presentations, once the presentations had started, please click on the focus button from the menu, and this will enable you to see the presentation full screen on your device. My colleague Robert is managing the chat box, and at the end of the presentation we will answer as many questions as we can. If we don't manage to answer all questions and get through them all, we will publish these on our website along with a recording of this webinar, so please look out for an email in the coming days with a link to this. If you would like to ask any questions privately, then please email events@abscientific.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And so without further ado, I'll now hand over the meeting to Ying, who will present on improving your clean room and disinfection processes within your organization. Over to you, Ying.
Thank you so much, Chris. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time to be with us. So I work for FG Clean Wipes and I lead the marketing team here. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to work on a very exciting cleaning system. That's something I'm about to unveil to you in a little bit. So today we're focused the discussion on how we can improve the clean room cleaning and the disinfection process, and focusing on the risk reduction aspect of this entire process. So I'm going to go right into our discussion. So the agenda is very straightforward. First of all, we're going to examine the mopping process and then really identify high touch points along the entire mopping process. So we're going to make mopping sexy and fun today. And a step further is really based on those high touch points, we want to assess potential risks associated along this mopping process presented by the current mopping systems that are out there. Really take a very close and detailed look at the mopping system that we're using on a daily basis and really understand what are some of the risks associated with those existing mopping systems. So based on those analysis, I'm going to introduce you a new mopping system that's going to help you reduce all those risks and also, introduce best-in-class cleaning process. So first of all, let's look at the existing mopping process and really understand and get on the same page to understand what are the high touch points along the mopping process. So I would invite you to join me along this mopping journey. So let's start from the very beginning, right? At the end of the day, you need to fill the bucket with cleaning solution and then you're ready to mop. And before you mop, you need to attach the mop to the handle and the frame and then rinse or impregnate the mop, meaning then wetting the mop in the bucket. After you're done, you need to get rid of the excess liquid from the mop, which is done by this wringing process. And then you're ready to mop the surface. Once you're done, you need to remove the soiled mop from the frame. And then at the end of the day, you need to dispose of the cleaning solution and basically dump the dirty cleaning solution into a sink. And then you end the day with cleaning or maintaining the equipment, making sure they're ready to use for the next day. So when we talk about risks, we look at two aspects. One is from an environmental standpoint, which pertains to contamination control. The other thing, probably more important, is the human factor, meaning that we want to make sure we examine the system from the interaction between the employee and the system to see if the system is safe to use, whether the safe system is ergonomically designed or not. So to make sure that the employee is safe during their work hours. When we look at the risks, we assess the risks from two dimensions. First of all is the severity of the risk, which is represented by this x-axis. The other is the frequency of the risks, meaning how many times those actions or activities would incur during a given day. And then we plot those high-risk points along this matrix to understand what are the tasks that represent the highest risk. As you can see from this chart, it looks like first, if you look at the top right quadrant, which represent the highest risks, there are a few tasks that that's really high risk. First is the removing the used mop frame, the mop from the frame, because the mop at that point is very dirty, right? Anytime you remove the mop from the frame, there is a risk of cross-contamination because inevitably, at least based on the system that we see currently in the market, you have to use your hand to touch the dirty mop to remove that mop from the frame. And then the mopping process, which is kind of the essence of the entire journey. You'd want to remove or clean the floor and remove those dirt or contaminants from the surface. And finally, the wringing and rinsing process, because by and large, what's out in the market, you need to use a wringer to get rid of the excess water from the mop. And so that task happens pretty frequently throughout the day. And then we also think the severity of the risk is pretty high as well. So here I just want to, again, bring everybody onto the same page. Just look at the conventional mopping system. What are we talking about? And then just have a quick review of the process of the current mopping system. So one of the most popular systems out there is something called the two-bucket mopping system. As the name indicates, the system consists of two buckets. One is for waste liquid, the other is for the cleaning solution. And usually there's a sieve or a wringer that sits in between the two buckets to wring the mop. From a process standpoint, the protocol dictates that first of all, you wet the mop from the clean solution, in the cleaning mop bucket. And then you remove the excess solution into the waste bucket through that sieve. Basically, you agitate the mop or press the mop against the sieve to remove those excess solution. And then you perform mopping process, and then you end the entire process by removing the contaminated solution into this waste bucket. So if you look at this, literally the minute you dip the used mop into the clean solution bucket, the clean cleaning solution is no longer clean, right? It's instantly contaminated by this used mop. And then there's another system that's called three-bucket mopping system. Comparing to the two-bucket, it has an additional rinsing bucket, which is indicated by this gray bucket that's in the front. So from a mopping process standpoint, it's pretty similar to the 2-bucket system. The only thing different is that there is a rinsing bucket, meaning that before you dip the mop into the clean solution, you put that into the rinse bucket to rinse the mop. But again, even though it's an improvement from the 2-bucket system, again, you can this system does not prevent user from dipping a soiled mop into the clean bucket. Even though the mop has been rinsed, you can argue it's not completely clean, right? There's still contaminants or dirt that's in the mop. So the entire clean solution is contaminated. So we'll just take a quick look at each step, thinking about the risk for each step, and then do a further evaluation. So first of all, fill the cleaning solution, right? You fill the bucket with the cleaning solution. What are the potential risks? So here, the biggest one is employee safety, because first of all, you store the cleaning solution in an open bucket. Right, you pour the liquid into the solution, and then you transport the bucket from one location to another. So during this process, liquid could slosh out of the bucket during that process, and then result in slip and fall for the employee. So this is a big employee safety risk. Second process along this journey is the mop attachment. So what are the potential risks? The biggest risk in this process is contamination control, because at this point, you're using your hands to attach the mop to the frame. And then the hands, touches everywhere, right? And then after you put the mop onto the frame, you use the same hands with the same gloves, touch other surfaces. So there's definitely cross-contamination risks along this process. Next is to rinse the mop. This is big. As I've mentioned earlier, right, the cleaning solution is instantly contaminated as soon as a soiled mop or a used mop is dipped into it. And then also this rinsing process that's included in the 3-bucket system does not remove all the dirt from the mop at all. And then let's talk about the wring the mop. Okay, so this is really what I actually consider one of the highest risk process along the entire process. First of all, from a contamination control standpoint, the wringer is actually a big source of contamination. As you can see from this picture, right? The wringer has a lot of corners, crevices, and there are a lot of round holes inside that wringer. So it's just a perfect place to harbor bacteria. And also this wringer is in constant contact with the dirty mop. So the mop is dipped with dirty solution, and then you wring it. So instantly the wringer is contaminated. And no matter how clean the next mop is, the wringer will contaminate the mop in turn. And then from a human factor standpoint, from an employee safety standpoint, as you can see from this press wringer, it requires repetitive pulling and pressing motions, which is really not good for your body. And then also the sieve, if it's a sieve, it requires repetitive pressing motion. Both of those motions are not conducive for the human ergonomics. And then moving on to mopping the surface. Okay, so as we've mentioned, the mop is never clean, right? You don't mop with clean solution. You don't mop with a clean mop because of the 2 or 3 bucket system. So you always mop actually, other than the first mop, you always mop with the contaminant cleaning solution. And then from a mop cleaning efficiency standpoint, if a mop is not very well designed, are you really cleaning the surface or are you just wetting it? And then also, are you really removing the dirt from the surface or are you actually smearing it? So these are the questions that we need to ask when we evaluate mops, the textile part of the system. And then mop removal. Again, almost all systems today out there required a user to use their hands to touch the dirty mops and remove the mop from the frame. And then you don't need me to say anymore, right? We all understand what a potential risk it is from a contamination standpoint. You use your hands to touch the dirty mop, and then again, same hands, it will be used to perform other tasks. So you can imagine what kind of, just cross-contamination activities are going to incur after this motion. And then finally, disposing of the cleaning solution. So I think certain SOPs calls for, the cleaning solution needs to be disposed of after a certain square footage cleaning. So anytime you dispose of the cleaning solution, you will bend, and then you lift the bucket and you dump the water into the sinks. So these are all risk factors from a human ergonomic standpoint. And then, as I mentioned, you end the day with cleaning the equipment. Let's just look at those sieves. Let's look at those press ringers. Look at them, look at those designs. A lot of crevices, a lot of tight corners, straight lines, and holes. These are just very difficult to clean, and they're very prone to harbor microbes that cannot be detected by human eyes. So I just evaluated the risk from a qualitative standpoint, and I would also like to quantify and do some number crunching. I want to understand how many risk points are we talking about in a given day, on a given day, or in a given year. So we came up with a scenario. Okay, let's assume that we're cleaning an ISO 5 or 6 facility, and this facility is pretty big. It's about 465 square meters. Okay. So in order to do that analysis, we also need to build in some assumptions. And these assumptions are based on best practice and recommendations. First of all, it is recommended that a user or an operator needs to change cleaning solution for every 93 square meters if it's ISO 5 or 6 facility. And also, we need to take into consideration the capacity of the mop, meaning on average, how much square meters does each mop cover before a user or an operator has to go back to the system to reprocess that mop. So the assumption we built into here is about 23 square meters coverage for each mop, meaning that after a user covers 23 square meters, he or she has to go back to the system to rinse the mop, and and then reprocess the mop. So here are the numbers. I'm not going to go into the details. So again, we look at the risks in two aspects. One is contamination control, the other is employee safety. And then these are the number of risks for each task. So on a given day, if any operator is cleaning a 465 square meter facility, we are talking about a 125 risk points, potential risk points on a day. Okay, and then if you extrapolate the data and annualize it, we're talking about a 32,500 risk points on an annual basis. That is a lot. We can definitely do better to minimize those risk points. And alongside the risk points, we also looked at the chemical consumption. As I mentioned, that based on best practice recommendations for an ISO 5 or 6 facility, a user needs to change chemicals on a pretty frequent basis. Here, the recommendation is for ISO 5 or 6, you need to change it once 600 square feet. So it's roughly 54 square meters. So basically, you need to use 2 or 3 gallons of chemical for every 54 square meters. ISO 706, you need to change it about 93 square meters for every 2 or 3 gallons of liquid for every 93 square meters. So on a day, so regardless the facility, you need to basically dump that much liquid or chemical down to the drain, anywhere between 10 to 24 gallons per day. So that's a lot of chemical waste. So from an environmental and cost standpoint, it does not make any sense. We need to change that, and we can do better. So as I've said, we can do better, so we can help you. Here, I want to introduce a new cleaning system. It's called Saturix, that was launched last year. And we just debuted this system during the Clean Room Technology Show 2 weeks ago. So here, I just want to officially unveil this system to you and explain to you how this new system can help you reduce risk and conserve chemical. So it is a system basically that includes multiple parts that you will need to clean any given facility. So it includes cleaning carts, mop frames, mops, and all kinds of mops and IPA. So you can use them together as a system to enjoy synergetic benefits. You can also use them individually, and each individual piece has its own merits and benefits, which I'll explain later on in this presentation. So the ultimate benefit of this system is to help you reduce risk and waste, at the same time to help you improve productivity. So here I'm going to show you a quick video to demonstrate to you how the system works. Before I show you the video, I want to introduce a couple of new terminologies to help you understand the video and help you understand how the system works. Okay, so when you look at the video, the first thing you will see is actually a dispensing bucket. It is a sealed bucket with this lid. The dispensing bucket actually is where you pour the liquid into at the beginning of the day. It dispenses the liquid precisely into the tray at the bottom. The tray at the bottom is we call it the dosing unit. That's where you would go to dose the mop with the precise amount of liquid that's required to perfectly moisten this mop, and also to optimize the floor coverage of each mop. And then you see a unit that's called piston that looks like this, like a tubular design. The piston is the key for this system. The piston regulates the amount of liquid being dispensed from the dispensing bucket to the dosing unit. Okay. And then you have this container at the front of the cart. This container is to house all the clean mops. Okay. So with that, I'm going to switch to a video, and then we're going to switch back to this PowerPoint. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, all right. So let's get back to the presentation. Can all see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, so I think the video is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go through that again. Just want to hit some highlights of our system. So this is kind of a comparison between our system, the Saturix system, and the existing system. First of all, we have a closed water system, meaning that, you know, the dispensing bucket has a lid, right? It has a silicone seal. So first of all, it prevents the bucket, you know, the water being sloshed out of this bucket during the transportation. And also, I just think aesthetically, it looks a lot better because you don't look at like a bucket full of dirty water, right? Like what you would see with the conventional system. And another beauty of that, in addition to the safety aspect, is that it actually helps conserve chemicals. So any unused chemical can be stored in the sealed bucket for up to 8 days, depending on the shelf life of the chemical. So there's no need for you to dump any unused liquid. Secondly, if you look, if you paid attention to the video, the entire process, meaning the mop removal and mop attachment, is hands-free. You don't ever have to touch the mop, whether it's clean or dirty. So so a direct benefit of that is it can prevent the spread of dirt or germs or contaminant, right? So it's a big benefit from a contamination control standpoint. And next is the precision dosing. Okay, this really replaces the existing process to rinse, dip, and then wring the mop. Okay, you don't ever have to do that. Everything is done by this precision dosing. So again, just to quickly go through that, right? First, you put this piston inside the bucket. So the piston, we have different sizes of piston. The piston regulates the amount of liquid being dispensed from the dispensing bucket at any given time. And that amount of liquid is just right for that particular mop to perfectly, adequately moisten that mop. So that mop can, you can drive a lot of mileage out of that mop. Covers like optimal square footage. Another benefit of that is the mop wetness is consistent. It's not controlled by any human behavior or any human preference, because every single time is the exact same amount of liquid is being dispensed to moisten that mop. So you always mop with clean solution. At the same time, the system works with gravity, right? As you can see from the video, you just lightly dip or press at the lever, and then the mop is instantly moistened. So it's a very effortless and consistent operation that's independent of end user preference or behavior. So a very key aspect of the system is actually mops. All our mops are made of microfiber. Okay, it's 100% microfiber. So microfiber, as the name indicates, is made of very extra fine filament. So our microfiber, they're proven to remove 99.9% of microbe. They're down to that's down to 0.1 micron in size, and I'm going to expand on that in my next slide. Okay, and another beauty of this mop is the coverage. Okay, our mop, because of it's so scientifically engineered, it can pick up a large amount of liquid. Not only does it pick up a large amount of liquid, it also has a very controlled release of the liquid onto the floor. So if you look at the image at the bottom, this shows the difference in the release pattern from the mop between our mop and then a leading competitor mop. As you can see, the Saturix mop, the release pattern is very consistent, even, and then a stark contrast is the competitor mop. They just left a big puddle of the water at the beginning, and then the mop gets dried up pretty quickly. So that's another beauty and advantage of the Saturix mop. So we have 3 different types of mops. We have light duty, medium weight, and heavy duty. It's not necessarily a good, better, best approach. It all depends on your need and the square footage of the facility. And we make sure that there is a right mop there for you to use. So let's talk about the micro removal. You may be wondering, well, for a lot of facilities, we use chemical that have kill claims, so those microbes are already dead. Why do we need to use microfiber to remove them? Well, the truth is that those microbes, they're very bad, they're stubborn. I mean, even though they're killed, they can become food to feed live pathogens and allow those live ones to proliferate. So that is why it's essential to remove those dead microbes from the surface. And our mops is able to remove those those dead microbes from the surface just with mechanical move. It's done independent of the chemical. So the testing was actually done with just water. So it's a mechanical remove just to eradicate all the dead microbes from the surface. So our mops have been third-party tested to remove 99.9% of the microbes, and these are the list of the viruses, of the bacteria that we tested. We even tested human coronavirus. Actually, among all these, human coronavirus has the smallest particle size, which is just above 0.1 micron. So this is just to show you that our microfiber is also effective at removing human coronavirus. Okay, so it is, as I mentioned, is a complete system. This system does not only just have cards, mops, mop rings. We also have a collection of wipes and IPA. So wipes include 3 different substrates: polyknit, polycellulose, and microfiber. We also have IPA in 2 different sizes, and those IPA feature very unique packaging, which is bag in a bottle to maintain the chemical integrity. So I just want to keep expanding on the microfiber story. In addition to remove 99.9% of microbes, as actually you see, if you look at the image on the left-hand side, this shows you the particle size of different objects. So the biggest one, the oval one, the light blue one, is actually human skin cell. We probably already know that the human skin cell is actually the single biggest source of contamination in a given environment. So that is how big that skin cell is. And the tiny little one is the 0.1 human coronavirus. So our microfiber is able to remove those particles down to 0.1 micro. In addition to this capability, microfiber is a lot more effective at stain removal. And those pictures I think are very, very telling. So we compared the cleaning performance for microfiber, polyester knit, and polyester cellulose. We applied a stain onto a surface. So after 4 wipes, okay, from each substrate, this is the remnant. As you can see, polycellulose, there's still quite a bit left on the surface. Polyknit is a lot better than polycellulose, but still you can see visibly there are remnants on the surface. And then this is the magic and power of microfiber wipes. Everything's gone after 4 wipes. And by the way, I mean, the size of the stain is the same for all 3 wipes, just to make sure we do apples to apples comparison. And a third big benefit for microfiber comparing to polycellulose is that it's significantly cleaner. So if you look at the fiber count and particle count, it has 68% lower fiber count and 52% lower particle count. So it's a lot cleaner substrate. We have developed a comparison for different substrates. So this is here for you as a reference. So we look at different attributes such as ISO recommendation, contaminant removal, absorbency, shedding, which is the cleanliness of the fiber, tensile strength and softness, and then rated each substrate along these substrates. So again, I'm not going to go through the details, and this is going to be a great takeaway for you to take home. And then anytime if you want to trying to decide which substrate to use, maybe you can take a look at this chart that can help you make the right decision for your clean room and cleaning. Here, just quickly illustrate why microfiber can serve as a bridge between polycell and polyknit. It could hit the perfect sweet spot for our end user, right? Polycell, it's very cost effective. It cleans okay, right? It has good absorption, but at the same time, as you can see, comparing to microfiber or even polyknit, it does not clean as well. And then obviously it does not have the microbe removal capability. Polyknit is very, very clean. It's probably the cleanest substrate right now for clean room, right? But it's a little costly comparing to microfiber. It does not have the particle removal, 99.9% particle removal. And then, stain removal, again, you saw the picture, right? It's not as good as microfiber. So as I've said, microfiber could be an upgrade for from both substrate, depending on the cleaning environment you're in or the cleaning application. So again, it's just it's a slight upgrade from a cost standpoint from polycell, but it cleans a lot better. And then polyknit, again, more cost effective, better stain removal, but it may not be as clean. But again, not every environment require a substrate as clean as polyknit. So microfiber could be a nice bridge between the two substrates. Now I want to wrap up this presentation, just hit 3 key points regarding advantages for the Saturix cleaning system. So based on our analysis, this system eliminates all the high-risk touch points, such as touching the dirty mop to remove the mop from the frame, to attach the mop to the frame, wringing, dipping, and rinsing. So by doing that, we can lower the risk profile of the entire mopping process by 80%. And then another benefit alongside this risk reduction is that by doing that, we also remove all the wasteful procedures. So we reduce chemical usage by 90%. You don't ever have to waste those chemicals and dump them into the drain because of this beautiful precision dosing system. And finally, microfiber, it is able to remove 99.9% of the particles down to 0.1 micron in size. So this gives you additional insurance to help you ensure the safety of any environment. So with that, I am going to turn it to the floor for any questions.
Yeah, hi, Ying. Thank you so much for your time and insight into that particular process. And like you say, we've got some time remaining to cover some of the questions that have come up during the presentation. Obviously, in addition to the speaker that we have, some people you are able to raise your hand if so as well. So Rob, could I please hand over to you to go through some of the questions that have been put up, please?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Thanks, Chris. So the first question we have here, Ying, is how do you decontaminate the cart, including the casters?
Well, yeah, so there's the process I would encourage you to follow your existing SOPs to maintain or clean or disinfect the cart. All the cart, like we have a cleaning stainless steel cart, and they're 100% autoclavable for up to, actually at least 50 times. All the handles and frames, they're autoclavable as well. So one big benefit for our system is that if you look at the picture here, I hope that you can take a closer look. The cleaning line is very simple, very clean. There's no hard corners, that kind of rounded corner, making it extremely easy to clean, to rinse, and disinfect.
Super, thank you. The next question I have here is, how often do you suggest to remove and change the dirty mop from the frame?
Okay, so these mops are disposable mops. Okay, so every time you clean the mop, right, you don't have to go back to the system to rinse, to dip. So you just go back to the, I don't know if you picked that from the video or not. We have this mop drop. Basically, you press the lever of the handle against the stainless steel part of the cart, and then the mop just automatically drops into the trash bag. So these are disposable mops. So we have three different kinds of mops, and each kind has its own surface coverage. Like the heavy weight mop can cover up to 30 square meters per mop. So that's how you replace it. Once you feel the mop kind of gets dried up or loaded with contaminants, you just go back to the cart and dispose of the mop into the dirty trash bag.
Super. Move on to the next question. How do you know you are delivering the right volume to the mops?
Very good question. So that actually speaks to the precision dosing of the system, right? So as I mentioned during the presentation, the amount of liquid that's being dosed into the dosing unit at the bottom is controlled by this piston, okay? And we have 4 different kinds of piston. And so it depends on what mop you pick, and then we have the right piston to go with that mop. For example, this cart is shipped with a 200 millimeter piston, which is optimized for our heavyweight mop. Okay, so if you decide to choose a different mop, we'll just give you a different piston. So kind of just to make it easy to understand, kind of the pistons paired with the mop, the type of mop you pick.
Grand. And a follow-up question there from the same person is, how do you decide which mop to use?
Yes, so great question. It all depends on the cleaning facility, okay? So each mop has its own surface coverage. It's the light duty and the medium and then the heavy duty. If your facility is like a continuous large surface, I would definitely recommend the heavy duty or the heavy weight. But if the facility has a lot of like labs, small rooms, probably the lightweight or medium weight are the mops to go. So again, it all depends on the cleaning application and then the environment you're cleaning. And each mop has, as I mentioned, all the benefits that I hit. All the benefits that I just hit, like the microbe removal, the even and consistent coverage, or the release. Each mop has those benefits as well.
Thank you. Next question is, does your system work with existing 2/3 bucket systems we already have in place in our facility? Yes,
that's the beauty of it, right? So if you are pretty invested or have a lot of existing system installed, you're not ready to replace the entire system, you can start with just our mops and mop frames. Like our flat mop or the pocket mop, they work with the sifts. So yes, they're compatible with existing mopping systems.
Great, thank you. Next question is, can you reuse the mopping cloths?
Reuse the mopping cloth? Oh, you mean the mop head?
Mop heads. I believe so.
Yes. Oh, sorry. So these are the, excuse me. So these mops are positioned as disposable mops. We believe from like contamination control standpoint, disposable mop is the safest. So we do have reusable mops under our portfolio. So yeah, we actually have both mops, disposable and reusable mops. So again, depends on the cleaning application. We have all, and you can pick any mop that you prefer.
Great. And the last question I have here is, most microfiber cloths act through some sort of static charge. With that in mind, do you see any adverse interactions with charged chemicals / antimicrobials such as QACS?
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, no problem. Most microfiber cloths act through some sort of static charge. With that in mind, do you see any adverse interactions with charged chemicals / antimicrobials such as QACS?
No, no, we have tested our substrate, all the substrate with all the key chemicals that are being utilized in the environment, in the clean room environment, and they're compatible with all major chemicals. So there should not be any concern there. And our mop, you're talking about wipes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they are compatible with all the key microfiber, all the key chemicals.
And I've just got one last question in here. Keep them coming, guys, if you have any questions. How is it useful to remove the endotoxic traces?
Well, so microfiber, another key aspect I forgot to actually, I'm glad that you asked this question, is because I mentioned it's really good at stain removal. At the same time, it's a lot more effective at residue removal as well. We understand that's very important for the clean room environment, right? So microfiber does a much better job at removing residues as well.
Great, and the questions keep on coming. What is the max volume? Yeah, what is the max volume of chemical that the bucket chemical can handle?
The bulk of the maximum volume?
So the container that holds the disinfectant, what is the max volume for that? I believe that's the question.
Yes. Oh, that, can I get back to you on that? I had that. I'll definitely get back to you on that.
Okay, Pilar, I'll follow up with that. We have your details and send on a follow-up email on that. So that covers everything, Ying. That's all our questions we have in webinar chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rob, for that. And you know, what we'll do is we'll collate these questions and obviously cover these when we put the link onto our website, including the recording of the webinar. So thank you again for attending our webinar today. We really hope that you enjoyed it and found it useful. Thank you, Ying, for presenting. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this for us. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Can I just add one thing that I missed mentioning? So you asked which mop to pick, right? And one consideration is actually the dwell time of the chemical. It is important, and again, I would encourage you to take a look at your SOP, right? If a chemical requires a longer dwell time, you may want to pick a mop that can, that can absorb a lot of liquid, so it can apply a heavier layer of liquid to make sure that we accommodate the dwell time requirement. So there are just different considerations that you need to think about. And that's one thing which we think is so important, to have an opportunity to play with the system and then just like experiment. And then I'm sure you'll find the perfect balance that satisfies your needs.
Perfect, thank you. So what we'll do is we will email a link of the recording in the next couple of days to those that have attended and registered. So please do keep an eye out for that. And if anyone would like any further information on the Saturix solution, please feel free to email us at info@abscientific.com or visit our website, abscientific.com. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you've had a great afternoon, a lovely evening, and that brings us to the close of our webinar. So thank you very much and have a lovely Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.